The 1990s were a defining era in diet culture, marked by the rise of low-fat everything, fat-free snack packs, and a growing obsession with thinness fueled by glossy magazine covers and celebrity-endorsed plans. Fast forward to today, and there's an unmistakable resurgence of 90s diet trends making their way back into the spotlight. But this time, they come dressed in a new wardrobe of wellness language, biohacking buzzwords, and tech-savvy packaging. Social media feeds are now flooded with minimalist meal prep videos showcasing cucumber noodles, fat-free yogurt bowls topped with protein powder, and throwback phrases like "no carbs after 6." Even products like Slim Fast are experiencing a revival, but their messaging has evolved to focus on metabolic health and intermittent fasting compatibility rather than sheer weight loss. What's driving this return? Gen Z and younger millennials, many of whom were either toddlers or not yet born during the 90s, are now rediscovering the aesthetics and principles of that decade. Only this time with access to scientific nuance and a whole internet of nutritional discourse. The nostalgic pull of the 90s is strong. Fashion has embraced crop tops, claw clips, and baggy jeans. Pop culture is reliving its golden days through reboots and remakes. It's no surprise that food and wellness habits are tagging along for the ride. Yet the difference lies in interpretation. Where the 90s embraced extreme restriction and a vilification of entire food groups, today's iteration claims to be more mindful, promoting clean eating, balance, and mental health. But how much of this is truly evolved, and how much is the same pressure in pastel packaging? The low-fat craze of the 90s was built on the belief that dietary fat was the enemy of thinness and heart health. Grocery shelves brimmed with fat-free cookies, sugar-laden yogurts, and low-calorie snacks that often substituted one macronutrient for an overload of another. Today, we see a nuanced repeat. Instead of fat-free, labels now say keto-friendly or macro-balanced. Yet the fixation on numbers and control remains. Carbs are still controversial. The Atkins diet of the early 2000s may have inherited the 90s anti-carb sentiments, but now it's dressed as glucose management, insulin sensitivity, and glycemic index optimization. Influencers promote carb cycling apps and wearable blood sugar monitors, claiming to offer a smarter way to do what the old diet books did: cut carbs and shrink your body. Similarly, fat-free is rebranded as lean or clean, aligning with today's health-conscious language. It's all about aesthetics with a side of science. The emotional undertone, however, hasn't changed all that much. There's still an underlying fear of bad foods, a glorification of self-control, and a tendency to equate dietary perfection with moral virtue. The platforms have changed, from late-night infomercials to TikTok wellness gurus, but the core messages often echo the same restrictive spirit. What's new, though, is the inclusion of wellness lingo. Instead of crash diets, people now talk about metabolic resets. Rather than calorie counting, they measure nutrient density or track with intuitive eating apps. Supplement companies offer mood boosters and cortisol balancers along with appetite suppressants. The 90s didn't have adaptogens or hormone hacks. Today's diet culture has just evolved to meet a savvier consumer who demands both results and health claims. Still, the question remains, are we really smarter or just better at disguising the same ideals? The influence of tech has added a unique layer. Apps like MyFitnessPal or Whoop bands allow users to micromanage their intake and output with granular precision, creating an illusion of control. Continuous glucose monitors have made their way from diabetic management tools to lifestyle accessories for the wellness-obsessed. People wear them to biohack their meals, which often just means avoiding pasta. Instead of stepping on a scale, they now log their HRV or glucose curves. But is the pursuit of health just another mask for the pursuit of thinness? And when brands package their meal replacement powders with pastel labels and mindful messaging, does that make it wellness or just marketing evolution? As these rebranded ideas flood the mainstream again, especially among the younger demographics who never lived through their first iteration, it's critical to ask whether we're genuinely redefining health or simply repackaging diet culture in a more palatable, Instagrammable form. Part 2 will continue by exploring the science and pseudoscience behind the revival. The resurgence of 90s diet culture might feel like a nostalgic return to simpler times, But this comeback is deeply intertwined with modern science, or at least the appearance of it. One of the biggest distinctions in today's wellness world is the constant referencing of data, research, and scientific jargon to justify old practices. Instead of blindly following low-fat or low-carb rules, people now cite hormone regulation, gut microbiome health, or metabolic optimization as the reasons for restricting certain foods. But how valid is the science that underpins this new wave of restrictive eating? Many of the principles being recycled today come from the same flawed assumptions as before. For instance, the war on carbohydrates remains prevalent, but now it's couched in terms like insulin spikes and blood sugar crashes. While it's true that refined carbs can lead to blood sugar fluctuations, the blanket vilification of all carbs, including fruits, legumes, and whole grains, is not supported by mainstream nutritional science. Yet wellness influencers often cherry-pick studies or misinterpret data to reinforce the idea that carbs are inherently harmful and must be managed with apps, supplements, or fasting windows. Similarly, the emphasis on low-fat eating is returning in some wellness circles, not in the form of Snackwell's cookies, but as part of a broader trend toward calorie control and clean bulking. Many social media fitness personalities advocate for high-protein, low-fat diets to maintain lean muscle while shedding fat, but often neglect to mention the vital role dietary fat plays in hormone production, brain health, and nutrient absorption. The focus is once again on aesthetics under the guise of functional health. In many cases, the science used to validate these modern diet plans is either preliminary or overhyped. Buzzwords like leptin sensitivity, hormonal imbalances, or cortisol control are thrown around without a full understanding of what they mean or how they interact within a complex human system. The biohacking movement, in particular, capitalizes on this ambiguity by offering expensive gadgets and proprietary supplements that promise to optimize the body. While some of these tools can provide valuable insights, their misuse often leads to obsessive self-monitoring and increased anxiety about food. For example, using continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, without medical necessity can lead to overcorrecting normal fluctuations and demonizing perfectly healthy meals. This is eerily reminiscent of calorie-counting obsessions from the 90s, except now the fixation is with real-time data points instead of numbers in a food diary. The language may have changed, but the emotional experience for many remains the same: anxiety, guilt, and an endless cycle of restriction and compensation. What makes this evolution more insidious is how it's being marketed. Brands and influencers present these approaches as empowering or liberating, appealing to a generation that values body autonomy and mental wellness. Instead of dieting to be thin, the narrative now centers around fueling your best self, achieving hormonal balance, or healing your gut. These phrases sound far more compassionate than burn fat fast, but often result in the same restrictive behaviors. Many people are once again afraid of eating certain foods, just under a different rationale. Take the rise of clean eating, a term that exploded in popularity in the 2010s and still lingers today. It suggests that some foods are pure and others are dirty, reinforcing moralistic thinking around food that's deeply tied to diet culture. While clean eating advocates may not explicitly say avoid fat or cut carbs, the end result is often a heavily restricted diet that mirrors 90s-era food rules. Adding to the confusion is the blurred line between science and pseudoscience in the wellness space. Research-backed insights like the importance of fiber, hydration, or whole foods are often thrown into the same bucket as unproven trends like colon cleanses, food sensitivity tests, or detox teas. This merging creates a confusing landscape where consumers struggle to discern credible advice from clickbait. It's no wonder that many end up adopting hybrid diets cobbled together from TikTok videos, YouTube vlogs, and Reddit threads. The modern revival of 90s diet culture is more data-driven, more tech-integrated, and more dressed in the language of self-care, but it's not necessarily healthier. The external pressures to look a certain way might be more subtle now, but they're still present, cleverly woven into the pursuit of wellness. In Part 3, we'll explore the psychological impact of this modernized diet mentality and its effects on self-image, especially among younger generations. As the 90s diet culture resurfaces under a polished wellness guise, one of the most concerning elements is its psychological toll, especially on younger audiences navigating an already overwhelming digital environment. The pressure to eat clean, manage macros, or achieve aesthetic goals disguised as health ambitions often leads to anxiety, disordered thinking, and even full-blown eating disorders. In the 90s, the triggers were largely external: celebrity diets in magazines, weight loss infomercials, and Jenny Craig commercials. Now, the pressure is embedded in the apps we use, the influencers we follow, and the content we scroll through daily. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram are overflowing with "what I eat in a day" videos that glamorize extremely low-calorie, hyper-curated meal plans. While some creators may intend to inspire healthy habits, the result is often a distorted view of what normal eating looks like. Teens and young adults now grow up watching people weigh lettuce, measure almond milk, and break down the supposed glycemic impact of a banana. This obsessive attention to health often masks a deep fear of weight gain and a constant pursuit of control. Even the idea of intuitive eating, originally developed to help people break free from diet rules, has been co-opted in some circles to mean only eat when hungry and stop at 80% full, ignoring the emotional, social, and cultural components of food. Meanwhile, self-optimization culture tells people that if they're not constantly improving, whether it's their body fat percentage, muscle mass, or glucose curve, they're falling behind. This creates a paradox. The more you try to be healthy, the more you feel you're failing. This isn't just theory. Studies have shown a direct link between social media use and disordered eating patterns, particularly among young women. Exposure to idealized body types and restrictive eating advice can lead to body dissatisfaction, compulsive exercise, and orthorexia, a form of disordered eating centered on an obsession with healthy eating. Unlike classic eating disorders that focus on weight loss, orthorexia is trickier to identify because it hides behind a mask of discipline and wellness. Someone may appear healthy on the outside while battling intense fear, shame, and guilt around food. The resurgence of 90s diet culture has also created a generational disconnect. Many Gen Z individuals grew up in an era that celebrated body positivity and mental health awareness, only to find themselves sucked into a vortex of silent judgment and algorithm-driven perfectionism. It's not just about wanting to be thin anymore. It's about wanting to be optimal, efficient, glowing, lean, and productive. These are all coded ways of saying acceptable. Older generations might see the return of low-fat snacks and protein shakes as a harmless echo of their past, but for younger people, these trends come layered with surveillance and comparison. Back then, you had to buy a diet book or subscribe to a program. Now, the rules are embedded in the content you consume and the tools you use to track every bite. Ironically, the wellness era that promised to liberate people from toxic beauty standards has instead repackaged those standards with smoother branding. Food guilt hasn't gone away. It's just been reframed. Instead of saying I was bad and ate a brownie, people now say that wasn't aligned with my goals, or that spiked my blood sugar too much. Instead of I need to lose weight, it's I'm working on reducing inflammation. This isn't to say that people don't benefit from making informed food choices. Education around nutrition, balanced eating, and how food impacts energy and mood can be empowering. But the moment those insights become rules, especially rules dictated by trends, tech, or influencers, they lose their empowering potential and become cages. The emotional undercurrent remains the same: shame for not being perfect, anxiety over eating the wrong thing, and the internalized belief that your body must be optimized at all times. For many, especially those with a history of disordered eating, this new version of diet culture is even more difficult to navigate. Its subtlety makes it more insidious. You're not told to skip meals, you're encouraged to fast for metabolic clarity. You're not told to avoid carbs, you're advised to monitor glucose. It's all presented as self-care, but the result can be just as damaging as the diet plans from 3 decades ago. In the final part, we'll look at how to approach this new wave critically, spotting the signs of disguised restriction and promoting truly sustainable wellness in a way that honors both the body and the mind. To navigate the modern resurgence of 90s diet culture without falling into the same traps, it's essential to learn how to decode the messaging around food, fitness, and wellness. This starts by asking harder questions. Who benefits from this advice? Is this recommendation rooted in evidence or anecdote? Am I making this food choice out of care for my body or out of fear and control? Wellness should be about expanding our choices, not shrinking our plates. In the 90s, diet culture was often overt in its messaging. Thin was in, fat was bad, and the number on the scale defined your worth. Now, the same goals are veiled behind health journeys and transformation challenges. But sustainable health is not about adhering to rigid routines or cutting out entire food groups. It's about flexibility, nourishment, and compassion. Rejecting diet culture doesn't mean rejecting health. It means building a version of wellness that centers around how you feel, not how you look. That includes acknowledging the individuality of each body. What works for one person's metabolism, lifestyle, or culture may not work for another. Instead of following the latest wellness influencer's plan or TikTok trend, people can benefit from learning how to interpret their own hunger cues, energy levels, and emotional relationship with food. Intuitive eating, when practiced in its true form, not the watered-down version seen online, encourages people to reconnect with their body's natural signals. That means letting go of food rules, respecting fullness, honoring cravings, and even eating for pleasure, concepts that diet culture tends to demonize. Healing from diet culture also involves unlearning decades of conditioning. Many people still carry guilt from eating too much or shame from missing a workout because these behaviors have been framed as moral failures. But food is not a test of willpower, and your worth is not determined by your fitness tracker. The idea that discipline equals health is deeply flawed. True health includes mental peace, social connection, sleep, and joy, not just nutrient ratios or body composition. As society collectively re-examines the definition of health, more people are beginning to push back. Movements around body neutrality, health at every size, HAS, and trauma-informed nutrition offer a refreshing alternative to the optimization craze. These approaches focus on behaviors, not outcomes. Instead of chasing a weight goal or macros target, they emphasize habits like cooking at home, moving joyfully, managing stress, and seeking community. That said, there is still a long way to go. The diet industry continues to adapt and rebrand, finding ways to sell insecurity in the form of glowing wellness. It capitalizes on trends like clean eating, anti-bloating, or gut healing to position products as necessary for success. But no supplement can replace sleep, no detox tea can heal disordered eating, and no app can teach self-acceptance. This doesn't mean technology has no place in health. It can be a valuable support tool, but it should never become a substitute for self-trust. If tracking your food helps you understand your habits and encourages balance, great. But if it triggers anxiety or obsession, that's a red flag. The goal isn't to perfect your diet, it's to feel at home in your body. One helpful practice is to diversify your information sources. Following professionals, like registered dietitians, intuitive eating counselors, or therapists with eating disorder expertise, can offer a more grounded view of nutrition and body image. Surrounding yourself with content that promotes diversity in body types, cultural food practices, and age-positive messaging can also help dismantle the narrow ideals that diet culture enforces. Another tool is curiosity. When you notice yourself being drawn into a new wellness trend or product, pause and ask why. Is this based on fear, aspiration, a promise of control? And what are you being asked to give up? Freedom, spontaneity, comfort, in return for the supposed benefit? If the cost is your mental peace, it's not a wellness tool, it's just another diet. Ultimately, revisiting 90s diet culture with a critical lens offers an opportunity. It allows us to learn from the past, recognize harmful patterns, and choose differently. We can still appreciate aspects of the era, the simplicity, the aesthetics, the interest in health, without replicating its most toxic behaviors. The smarter version of 90s nutrition isn't one that biohacks or fasts or restricts harder. It's one that acknowledges nuance, embraces balance, and places humanity above optimization. That's the real evolution.